first match of the week between Liga de Quito and 9 de Octubre. This match was a match that had two different contrasting styles of play, 6 goals, and many elements that we will attempt to break down in this video. Let's begin with the highlights. In the 30th minute, Martinez Borja found Muñoz making a clever run in between both center backs. He took a fantastic touch with his left foot and buried it past the keeper. This took Liga 1-0 up. Then, a mere 3 minutes later, Cruz delivered a wonderful corner, which was met by Zunino. The goalkeeper made a wonderful save, but Muñoz read the play well and reacted first to coolly tap it in to the back of the net. In the second half, 9 de Octubre clawed one back in the 55th minute. The ball popped out. Daluz used his pace to beat an oncoming Guerra and then took it down the touchline, shrugging him off, and with only Corozo in defense, he baited him out, played in a beautiful low cross to the oncoming Fajardo, who finished into an almost open net. This led to Liga de Quito being in complete disarray. This meant that Quintero produced a very dumb foul in the middle of the pitch. Luna floated an inch-perfect cross, which was met by Daluz after Fajardo had shrugged off Cruz. Daluz then produced a wonderful header past a stranded Gavarini. Then, unfortunately for 9 de Octubre, Liga were able to respond quickly. Straight after the kickoff, Piovi played a precise long ball to Quintero, who had made a run behind the defense. Quintero then had the clarity of mind to pivot the ball to the feet of Martinez Borja, who took a shot that deflected on the defender and looped over the 9 de Octubre keeper. As 9 de Octubre pushed their line forwards in search for a third goal, substitute Espinosa played a beautiful ball over the defensive line onto the feet of Julio, who collected the pass and chipped the keeper to seal the 3 points for Liga de Quito. In the second part of this video, what we will try to do is to analyze the match and the teams. We will begin by providing the starting lineups and the formation implemented by both managers. Then we will discuss both the positives and the negatives that were shown by both teams. We will also be awarding our first ever Ecuador Match of the Week Man of the Match award, and then we will be leaving you with some final thoughts on the match. So let's get straight into that. 9 de Octubre came out with a classic 4-4-2 formation. Recalde was in goal, and the defensive line was made up by Gomez, Fernandez, Becerra, and Mina. Casares and Cetre were the two men entrusted with defensive duties in midfield, while Oña and Luna played as the wide men. Up top, we saw a partnership between Daluz and Fajardo to complete the lineup. On their side, Liga de Quito went for a little bit of a different formation. They went for a 4-2-3-1. We had Gavarini in goal, Perlaza, Guerra, Corozo, and Cruz as the solid defensive unit that we were able to see last season. Alcivar and Piovi provided the double pivots. The wide men were Zunino and Muñoz, while the brilliant Julio floated behind the lone striker, the massive Martinez Borja. Let's go straight into the positive shown by 9 de Octubre. First of all, here we have a still from the match. This still allows us to see how the team from Guayaquil had a very clear 4-4-2 formation. The space between the defensive line and the midfield line was extremely compact, which allowed them to not leave much space between lines for the oncoming Liga de Quito attackers. In addition, we are able to see that 9 de Octubre did not try to play a very deep line. They positioned themselves far away from the area, and we have both center backs providing a great marshalling in order to keep the height of their line and avoid playing Liga de Quito's dangerous men onside. Finally, we are able to see that both strikers were entrusted to constantly track back in order to help the defense. This still allows us to see the solid defensive shape that 9 de Octubre showcased, which allowed them to initially frustrate Liga de Quito's attacking efforts. Another positive that we can see, and we will see with this video, which I will be constantly stopping in order to highlight some things that I was able to see. We saw that another positive aspect was that the wide players provided cover to the fullbacks. In this video, we can see that as soon as Cruz receives a pass, here, Oña is already tracking back. He then positions his body at the correct axis to try to block the pass line that we have to Adolfo Muñoz. This then forces Cruz to go back to Piovi. Piovi has to go even further back to a center back, and they have to restart play. When this happens, 9 de Octubre are able to have their defensive shape back, their clear 4-4-2 formation. And Liga de Quito are forced to begin their attack again, and they do so. The ball is played onto Julio, who is tracked back by this wing back here. The defensive midfielders also provide excellent cover to their defense, and the defensive line is very compact, which means that Julio is unable to find a pass into the channels, and he is forced to produce a long cross that then goes wide. Let's review this image once again in full speed. We have Cruz receiving the ball initially. He is tracked back by Oña, and the pass line is cut completely. Liga de Quito is forced to work the way back and restart the attack. With the attack restarted, 9 de Octubre gets back their defensive shape. The ball goes to Julio. He is tracked back correctly. He is forced to do a poor cross, which then goes behind the area for a goal kick. These were not the only positives that 9 de Octubre showed. They had plenty of good things that we were able to see. We saw that their early high press worked quite well and forced Liga de Quito into some mistakes that could have been costly. In addition to this, they were extremely mentally strong, especially when they went down 2-0. As a promoted team, it must be hell to go and visit one of the greatest teams of the country in your first match back. However, to their credit, they were able to keep their mentality quite strong. They equalized in the second half, and unfortunately to them, they were unable to find an equalizer and were ultimately punished by a Liga de Quito side with a huge amount of individual quality. Finally, it is also worth mentioning that their physical fitness was optimal, particularly for a start of the season. If they are able to keep their defensive discipline and mix this with an excellent physical conditioning, they will have a good chance to have a good season and perhaps even stay in the division. Unfortunately for 9 de Octubre, they also showed quite a bit of negatives. They struggled to track the runs between lines. Even though their lines were extremely compact and their defensive shape was good, they were unable to track the oncoming Julio and Muñoz, who constantly were able to find space between those lines. Second of all, they relied heavily on their center mids to break up play, and while they did this beautifully during long spells of the game, what they missed was the ability to be able to transition between the defense and attack. So this is something that they will have to work on in the future if they are going to try to get a lot of points on the board. Finally, one of the biggest negatives that I thought was clear for everybody to see was the fact that they were unable to control the tempo of the game. This meant that throughout many spells of the match, they were run over by the Liga de Quito side, and they did not have time to rest on possession. All of these three negatives that I have shown here can be quickly highlighted and clearly seen in the next video, which I will show, and I will once again be pausing it in order for you to be able to more clearly see what I'm trying to explain. So here we have Liga de Quito starting an attack. They bring the ball wide like they like to do. They cross it in, and a defender clears it. Then 9 de Octubre is unable to control the ball in order to get a defensive attacking transition. The ball is controlled by the Liga de Quito midfield, who then plays it to Cruz. Cruz is able to find Julio, who has managed to somehow find space between the very, very tight lines that we have by 9 de Octubre. Julio then takes a heavy touch, and in that heavy touch, Mina tries to get the ball, but Julio manages to poke it onto the path of Alcivar. Alcivar collects the ball, and Cetre rushes out, leaving the midfield completely stranded. Then it is received by Martinez Borja, who feeds the ball into Adolfo Muñoz, who has found space between both center backs. who are terribly out of position, and the left back who has to try to provide emergency cover. He is unable to do so. Munoz controls fantastically well on his left foot and finishes with his right foot on the bottom hand corner. Let's take a look at this video one more time. The ball starts with Liga de Quito making an attack. They go wide, as I was mentioning before. They are forced to produce a hopeful cross, which is then cleared by the defense. Nueva de Octubre is unable to latch onto the ball, and the attack starts once again. We have Cruz, who feeds the ball into Julio. Julio gives a touch to Alcivar. Alcivar feeds Martinez Borja. Martinez Borja finds Adolfo Munoz, and Adolfo Munoz finishes the ball. This is a classic showcasing of the three mistakes and the negatives that we have shown before. They were unable to control the tempo. They were unable to have a defensive attacking transition. And whenever their midfielders made a mistake and their defensive shape was out of line, they conceded a goal. Now, I also want to discuss a little bit about Liga de Quito's positives. Liga de Quito are a team that are extremely talented, and it's obvious that their positives will overlap with the negatives shown by the other team, because they simply have the quality and the individual quality as well to exploit these type of mistakes. What we will see now in this video is the ability that Johan Julio and Adolfo Munoz show in order to find space between the opposition's line. So let's play the clip. Liga de Quito is starting off their attack. They're being very, very patient in possession. They are moving the ball back amongst their defensive line, as we can see on the video. And then at some point, the ball comes to Corozo. Corozo has the ability to find space and passes in between lines. He looks at an unrushing Julio behind the defense, and he produces a beautiful pass, which Julio collects with his pace. Obviously, this did not lead to a goal, but as we were able to see here, Julio had the ability, the intelligence, and the possibility to make runs that were quickly spotted by the defender and caused problems in 9 de Octubre. Another positive was how patient this team is in possession, and they were so throughout the whole match. They work the ball, trying to find some type of imbalances in the opposition's defense, and whenever they are able to overload the strong side here, they then produce cross-field passes or switch the field of play to generate numerical advantages. Here we were able to see how after some extremely patient play, the ball was crossed into the path of Sonino, who was just barely caught offside due to how disciplined the two center backs maintained their line. Let's watch it again in full speed. Here we see Liga de Quito, very patient in possession. They move the ball to midfield, they find no space, so they bring it back. When they bring it back, they move the defensive line, trying to generate imbalances on the opposition's defense. They find the possibility to overload the strong side, and as soon as they are able to cross the ball, they do so onto the path of Piovi, or Sonino, who unfortunately is caught offsides. So here we see how the patient nature of the build-up play allowed Liga de Quito to exploit the defensive frailties of even one of the most defensively disciplined sides that we saw in match week 1. Unfortunately for Liga de Quito, they also showed some very clear negatives. First of all, there was a lack of movement and creativity in the final third. Martinez Borja was located between the defenders, but he was unable to find space for himself that would allow him to pivot and find the oncoming Adolfo Munoz or Johan Julio. In addition to this, whenever they were attacked in transition, so whenever they lost the ball in attack and they had to defend, they were extremely defensively disorganized, and this led to them conceding the first goal. Finally, something that really caught my attention was how physically weak the defenders were in challenges. We saw these in two clear moments that led directly to goals. The first one was when Guerra lost to La Luz in both pace and strength, and in the second goal, Cruz went down far too easily and let La Luz had a free header inside the area. These are defensive mistakes that are extremely costly, and even more so against the teams that are fighting for the championship and for the Libertadores berths. So once we have the possibility to talk a little bit about the positives and negatives, we want to conclude this video by awarding our first ever Ecuadorian Match of the Week, Man of the Match Award. And that is none other than Adolfo Muñoz. Adolfo Muñoz was absolutely brilliant. First of all, he scored 2 goals from 2 shots on target. He was a constant threat with his intelligent runs and quick decision making, and he proved to be that extra little bit of quality that Liga de Quito needed in order to be a very organized and well-drilled 9 de Octubre side. So congratulations to Adolfo Muñoz, who I believe was also considered to be the best player of match day 1. So thank you very much for listening to me. I just wanted to conclude by saying that it is absolutely evident that Liga de Quito just had too much individual quality and the patience necessary to break down a very difficult team in 9 de Octubre, who did themselves justice in their first match back in the top flight of Ecuador. Hopefully you have enjoyed this breakdown of Ecuador's first match of the week. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this video, and click subscribe to not miss any additional content that will be produced in this channel. Finally, I would encourage you to give me a follow on my Twitter page on @RoundupLigaPro to get the latest comments and news on Ecuadorian Liga Pro. Thank you very much, and I will see you in our next video.